Hi everyone, this is Alan Miles and I'd like to welcome you to my new video channel. What I want to talk about today is a follow-up to the story that I wrote on the website the other day in my Marathon Years book. It's called First Encounters, and what I discovered just after I wrote it was this scrap of paper. Don't know if you can see it. It's a typewritten version of the same story. Now, typewritten, that means it must have been written in the 1990s, possibly the early 2000s. That was the last time that I ever used a typewriter. When I wrote this, I remembered the story much better than I did the other day when I wrote it. And I thought you might be entertained to hear some of the differences and how much better this original story was. We'd been introduced by the girl I'd been dating at the time, Rita. I didn't call her Rita in the story I wrote the other day. She was Laura, but none of the names were her real name. But she was the guest relations manager at the Intercon Hotel in Abu Dhabi. Hey Rita, I've got a show tonight, so I can't get over till later. Still want to see me? The show, what I was doing in Abu Dhabi was I was in charge of a radio station called Capital Radio. More about that later. Rita says, yeah, I'm meeting up with a few of the guys who are here setting up the new computer system at the hotel. I'd forgotten that's why all the guys were together, setting up the computer system, of course. We thought we'd walk across to the Hilton Disco later. Fancy it? Only if you promise I won't have to dance. That hasn't changed. Imagine, this was an evening when I was going to meet someone who was a dancer, and I was absolutely not. Opposites attract, I guess. Rita says, deal. What time can you make it? Around 9:30. Okay, we'll get something to eat first and wait for you. The lift in the Abu Dhabi Intercom was enormous, reputedly designed to be enough for 100 Japanese. The room I walked into, by contrast, was tiny. A squeeze for the seven of us. Me, Rita, four computer guys sitting on a bed. I'd remembered three computer guys, or three guys, and they weren't sitting on a bed in my memory, they were in a chair. Squashed between them, a girl, Lena. At least I got that right. Rita did the introductions, and this is amusing because afterwards, years afterwards, Lena said that she thought that when she first met me, I was really arrogant, and this is why. Rita did the introductions. This is Alan, he's the guy who runs Capital Radio. Whatever, it runs itself, really. Arrogant. Oh, they say, the sound of the Gulf, Abu Dhabi's mover and shaker. They were being cynical. There was a magazine article that had been released probably a couple of weeks beforehand. I've got the magazine actually here. I keep all the magazine articles that are written about me. This was May 1981. And the headline is Capital Radio ain't doing half bad. It should be ain't half doing bad, but never mind. And then there's a picture of me at the bottom, my 30-year-old me, and I'm described as a mover and shaker. And that's embarrassing. And I say here, I felt like an imposter. I'd arrived in Abu Dhabi expecting to set up an English language radio news service after working on news and features on the radio station in neighbouring Qatar for a couple of years. But with the ongoing war between Iran and Iraq, the Ministry of Information in the UAE decided it might be better for me to lay low for a while. How would I like to manage, they said, their new commercial music station for all the expatriates? Well, I jumped at it, as I often jumped at opportunities in the Gulf. People said, can you do this and can you do this? And the answer was always yes, even if you knew you were totally unqualified for it. Then we go on to the conversation with Lena, and I love this memory. I say to her, do you always bring so many boyfriends with you? And then I go on to describe the disco, the noise of the Bee Gees. I call it the noise. Then to cross me so that I could hear her, and I talk about, and this is handwritten, it's difficult to read, her incredible physical attraction. It was magnetic. something about a dancer in Egypt and then in Lebanon, in the casino, the mountains. And then I say, and I wish I could read the words here, but I can't read my own writing. I could smell and here's the word. It looks like beaches, but I didn't go to the beaches in Lebanon. I don't think that's what I would have written. And it's certainly not, I could almost smell the teachers. I wish I knew what it was. But I then talk about the romance of pre-war Beirut, the beauty. And that was what I felt and when I met Lena for that first time. I then say it was the last I saw of Lena for 3 months. I remembered it as a shorter time. It was a long time after, before we met again. And then I say, was this my life partner? Never even contemplated it. She was already taken by another Alan. I loved finding this because it brought me right back to the scene. And I really wish that I'd kept a diary better all those years of not just Lena and my life together, but all my life. It's so good to come back and see the real words that I wrote then, and it comes back into your memory so freshly and clearly. It's important for me to be able to bring back those scenes now. My advice to anyone is to write every day the highlights of the day and write the words that actually were spoken. It's important. The other thing that occurs to me after reading this is how much chance was involved in meeting Lena. We'd been floating around like atoms floating around the world ever since our teenage years in Lena's case and early 20s in my case. We'd been to the same countries but at different times. We bumped into each other on this evening and then we unmet each other again for another 3 months. Had I not had my show that evening, we might not have met. I would have met up with Rita earlier and might not have met the computer guys and Lena. Incredible chance. Since I lost Lena a couple of months ago now, I've been thinking that it's not just Lena I've lost, but I lost everything I associated with her. My youth, effectively. All those wonderful memories. And it's reading this again that makes me realise that when I met her in Abu Dhabi, I was feeling very much the same. I'd been in a long relationship before, and finished it about 2 years before, and really wasn't expecting to meet another wife, let alone maybe a girlfriend, but not a wife in Abu Dhabi. But I did, and it started a whole new train of experience in my life. And the same thing could happen now if I open myself up to experience. I'm not suggesting that I want to meet another partner at this stage, but I do want to have the same thrilling experiences that I had in Abu Dhabi at that time. Just because I'm 40 years older, perhaps more now, doesn't mean that I can't have new, fresh experiences. And I think it's important, although I'm sitting behind the desk a lot of the time now, writing our stories, I need to get myself out there and have new experiences. And that's where I'm going with my new project, the Care Combine. It's not just something that I want to sit on paper. I want to bring this new project to life. And that's what we'll see as we go through the coming weeks and months and hopefully years. And that's all I have to say for today. Thanks for listening and watching.